got Jerusalem in that time period, you've got almost like a clash of so many different cultures. Could you speak about how what that process was like? Did you have a decent baseline knowledge? Yeah.
Sure. Well, I did have some baseline knowledge because when I was at university, I studied comparative religion. So I had already read the Old Testament and the New Testament. I was quite familiar with Greek mythology, Latin mythology and storytelling, books like The Golden Ass, things like that. So I did have a background which gave me confidence. I've always had quite a good amount of confidence that almost any historical subject, if you give me enough time, I can do the research, I can find out what I need to know, and I can create a realistic portrait of those times. And in this case, it wasn't difficult. When I wrote The Last Kabbalist of Lisbon, my first novel, which takes place in Lisbon in 1506, it was extremely difficult because there was no internet. So I couldn't go on Google and enter, keywords like Lisbon 1506 daily life. In this case, I could. So I would go to Google, daily life at the time of Jesus, and I got lots of books. And then I just order them and read them and take huge amounts of notes. And I'm gifted with having an extremely good memory. And that's very helpful for any historical novelist, because I can usually know where I found a quote, where I found a curious fact. You spoke briefly about being a multicultural society, which is one of the most wonderful things I discovered while doing the research, that Jerusalem and the Holy Land at this time had obviously the Romans, who were the conquerors, Jews who would have spoken Aramaic, Romans would have spoken Latin. It also had Greek colonies, so there were a lot of Greek speakers. It had Phoenicians, it had Nabateans, who are the ancestors of the Arabs. And so that multicultural aspect of the Holy Land became very important for me in the book. And it's embodied, I would say, in Lazarus, who spends his apprenticeship in the New York of the era, the big city with great avenues, and the lighthouse, Alexandria. And so he has inside his own head this dual personality, one side Greek, Alexandrian, one side Jewish, speaking Aramaic. And so that part of it became wonderful for me.